And away we go. It's the DFS Early Bird from Awesemo.com. Dan Strafford, Dave Lochran along with you on this Monday morning. An 11-game NBA slate is ahead of us. Russ Westbrook, Steph Curry, Anthony Davis, and more. Throw Giannis into the mix there as well on this slate. So we'll get into all that momentarily. First and foremost, and most importantly, Dave, how the hell are you doing?
I'm doing well, man. Doing well. It was a good Sunday. Good, well, kind of good. I mean, good for DK, good for seasonal. The Eagles' loss was brutal. The way in which they lost was absolutely gut-wrenching, man. Did you see Amari Cooper's catch in overtime?
I did.
It was tipped by Rasul Douglas on what was actually a really solid defended play. I mean, He defended it well. He had a good game. He had an interception in this game. He played really well. It was really unfortunate. I felt bad for him. I'm an Eagles fan. It sucked. I guess the fact that we won a Super Bowl definitely makes it easier. It would have been a lot tougher. No joke. Like, we never won one before, so I don't know what the feeling is of losing games the next season after winning a Super Bowl, after ever winning a Super Bowl. So, it takes the pain away a little bit, but that was brutal because that was their season. That's the season right there. It's over, and it ended in overtime. But you know what? Doug Peterson called plays I can't even use the word. I can't use the word. It starts with a P or a B. I think you get the point here. Throughout the first, second, and third quarter. And then he's like, oh, wait a second. We need to win. Let's start airing it out, and let's actually start making plays, which they did, and they scored a bunch of points. And then Dallas Goedert got called for this offensive pass interference. It's the worst call I've ever seen in my life. I will say this with any team, I don't care. And then the Cowboys got flagged for a roughing the passer the following play that was not roughing the passer. It was a makeup call. The refs are just terrible. It just seems this way in every game. So that sucked, but everything else was good. Won my playoff round in a pretty high money dynasty league, so that's fun. Going on to the next one. Oh, and kind of the best part about my entire day was I told Justine, my fiance, that I'm moving the TV in the living room. It was on like a stand or whatever, on like an entertainment kind of stand. Mm-hmm. I'm like, listen, we're mounting it on the other wall. We're moving the furniture, and it's going to look great. And I bought a 160-degree rotating mount so I can move the TV however I want. And she was mad. She's like, I don't want to do that. No, it's not going to. I don't want to do that. Well, then I'm going to have to do. And I'm like, listen. Every other time I've made a executive decision like this, you come back. You said, you know what? You're right. I said, I know. Okay. So here's what you got to do. And she's actually like upset about it. I'm like, I'm doing it. And that's it. I'm doing it. And then if you don't like it, I don't know what to tell you, but you will. So just bear with me. She's like, whatever. I'm going to move everything around. So my buddy comes over. He's sick with electrical stuff. He comes in, he rewires everything, puts in a new outlet so the wires are hidden because there's nothing worse than mounting a TV with the wires exposed. He does all that. We run it up through the basement. Bing, bang, boom. Put it up. I do it. Everyone comes over to watch the game, and everyone's like, man, the TV is so much better here. And I look at her, I was like, what do you think of it? She's like, you were right. And those 3 words, Dan, you were right. They're better than any victory you could find anywhere else in life. I'm telling you right now, those 3 words, you were right. I will cherish them forever until the next one comes along.
I was going to say, exactly. You got to just keep working for that next one. It's a fun game to play. That is for sure. And when the vindication comes through, it's Gronk level spiking in the end zone. We're having a new fence put in tomorrow morning, or what will be Monday morning for everyone listening to this. That should be an interesting experience because the ground's frozen. So I don't know what the crew is going to do, but they agreed to come out. They took our money. So I'm just going to let that roll and see what happens.
Digging through the permafrost.
Yeah, exactly. Good luck, guys. You decided to do this.
Nah, dude, they've got ways to do it. I mean, come on.
You just pour like hot water on it, right? I mean,
they've got ways to do it. These people are,
they're professionals. They're called reliable fence. I have to assume they're reliable. They have it in their name, right? That's how that works, right?
About life. Yeah, of course.
All right, let's talk some NBA. We have a lot to dig through here. As always, don't forget, Dave has your deep dive every Monday, Wednesday, Friday. That is your write-up. That happens over there on Awesemo.com behind the paywall. If you want in on behind the paywall, you can always use the promo code EARLYBIRD, which gets you in for free for 1 week over there at Awesemo.com. We are still celebrating the 24 days of giveaways here at Awesemo.com.
It actually got better than it was before.
Yeah,
it got better.
It's ratcheting up just a bit. The prizes are getting better, and we're going to be giving away a month free pass to any sport of your choosing, or a piece of merchandise from our new store at shop.awesemo.com. All you have to do is rate the podcast. Again, copy says 5 stars. I'm going to be a little bit more giving. Rate it. I believe Dave thinks we deserve 5 stars. You rate it as you see fit. Leave us a review on iTunes on whatever you want to comment. And I'm going to say today, you got anything, Lofty? What do we want to hear from the people? What do we want from them? We want their favorite moment on the podcast. I think is still ongoing.
No, I want them to talk about the that was going to say the moment that the best, most rewarding moment in your life where you just proved your significant other that you were better than her.
What if it never happened? But I mean, if it never happened for someone, I feel bad.
I'm kidding. And no, if it's a female listening, I want you to tell me, what you did that proved him wrong, going crying into a corner. It takes a little long, but it could be like 5 sentences.
Yeah, give us a paragraph. I'm down for paragraphs.
Yeah. I enjoy reading them. I'm not kidding. I will read those comments, all of them. Like with me, I said I was doing black drop ceiling in the basement when we were finishing it. And she's like, this is going to look so bad. And her mom, of course, always, that's going to don't do it. She said, don't move the TV to it. So I'm doing it. And then, it looks so good. So stuff like that, it's just such a rewarding feeling. I'd love to hear some other stuff. I can't be the only one out there that thoroughly enjoys being right when it comes to your significant other. I can't.
I mean, I just like being right all the time. It doesn't matter
but
who.
There's something special about that.
Now, I have to ask, as we record, is Justine within earshot?
Yeah, she can't hear me. She can't hear me. I made sure of that.
I look forward to the days I can say the same. So that is enough said. That is enough said.
I like being right, but I'm not a total idiot. Okay? All right. Let's get that straight right now.
Oh, so good. I like to sleep in my bed tonight. So we're just being pretty straightforward here.
Exactly.
So comment on your favorite moment from the podcast thus far and the last time you took pride in being right. There it is. So whatever it is, a significant other, a family member, some random hobo on the corner, whatever it is, the last time you are prideful for being right, let us know over there in the iTunes comment. And what also comes of this isn't just the 1 month free of a specific sport or something from the store. We'll also have a drawing on Christmas Eve for a year-long Awesemo.com subscription. You get a value of $700.
All access annual, baby.
There it is. And so we put that all aside, let you know, get in now. You can also do that on YouTube. If you're listening on YouTube, comment below, like, subscribe. You need to do all those things to be entered into the contest each and every day. And you can comment on any show, any given day to be entered. So good luck to all of you who are entering. We appreciate every single one of you who listen. Some of you have been with Dave and I for 5 years now, or some of you just recently found us. Appreciate each and every one of you every single day that tunes in. So diving in, it is a deep slate. It is one that has some great matchups, some top-end matchups for point guards. But, Dave, lots of injuries, lots of questionable tags. Some guys are already out. What are some of the most important that you have an eye on, the guys that are going to most influence this slate that you're most keeping track of here as you get ready to write the deep dive on Monday?
Yeah, 11 games, which means you're going to have a fair amount of injuries for sure. So I think a few of the biggest ones are ones that we've known about since Sunday, actually. Joel Embiid's probable now. He was questionable, didn't go through shoot around. He's got a migraine. I don't see any reason he wouldn't play. But
his migraine is Brett Brown. That's whose migraine is.
Right. Everyone's talking about how mad he is at Jimmy Butler. It's not even Butler that he's mad. He's not mad at Butler. He's upset that his role has changed. That they're trying to turn him into a stretch five that shoots 29% from three. Look, I get it. I don't think he should have expressed it. But the problem here is Ben Simmons. Ben Simmons needs to learn how to shoot, and then literally all of those problems go away. I'm serious. But he's probably expecting to play. Stanley Johnson and Reggie Bullock are both questionable. Landry Shamet, I mean, obviously, look at it and say, oh, that's not much. But depending on if anybody else is out in this game, you could see somebody like TJ McConnell get a bunch of extra run, but because obviously Fultz is out as well. But I don't think that's something that, with 11 games, you really need to take into consideration here. Because Shamet's minutes have been off the bench. Shamet's minutes have actually been up there, 18, 20, 25 minutes per game, kind of all over the place. The problem here is that TJ McConnell's minutes have been sporadic. Now, McConnell's also been playing a lot more minutes lately, 22, 31, 23, 21. So it actually stands to reason that McConnell, who's almost minimum salary, if Shamet is out, McConnell might play 30 minutes off the bench. He actually really could, because then you're without Fultz and you're without Landry Shamet. And who else do you have? You have Shake Milton. Like that's who you have. Seriously, you don't really have anyone else. So, yeah, actually maybe McConnell wouldn't be the craziest play at nearly minimum salary, in tournaments only, of course. So, yeah, Johnson and Bullock both questionable for Detroit. That's all in the same game there. John Wall. So it went from personal, and then it went to illness, and now he's doubtful with a bone spur in his heel. It went from personal to illness to bone spur in literally the course of 4 days.
Listen, I take very personally how sick I feel over bone spurs. So the progression there.
Yeah, sure. Sure. If that's how we want to look at it, something's going on here. But
he's getting traded. He's getting traded. Yeah, there's no way around the Wizards blowing this up, right? I don't. So they try to ice him as long as they can, get a team like the Knicks to stupidly offer up too much for him. And then they pull the trigger. I don't see him playing much over the next week, to be honest. I think they're going to try to deal him as soon as possible.
Probably. Just stick with something reasonable. All right, I'm going to run through these because it's a lot. Victor Oladipo remains out. He's out at least a couple more games. Al Horford is questionable with left knee soreness. And I'm only mentioning questionables or doubtfuls outside of Embiid because that's kind of important. Aaron Baines is also questionable. So you would see Daniel Tice, who, if you late swapped him in the other day, you were sitting real pretty after he dropped 54.5 fantasy points. Don't expect those same numbers, but you could get very solid run from him if he starts in that game. Daniel Tice played 32 minutes. Granted, it was a monster blowout, so I can't tell you what the run would look like here. But my assumption is if both Horford and Baines were out, you would get a lot of additional run. David Nwaba remains out. Rodney Hood is also questionable, though, so that could change the landscape of things for sure. You could look at somebody like Alec Burks getting a whole lot more run. Chris Dunn remains out. He's expected back very soon, not yet. Bobby Portis could return, though. So Chicago, the situation, the rotation there could change quite a bit. Dennis Smith Jr. remains out as well. Who else? Jamal Murray's questionable, Dan. Mike Conley's probable. The reason I mentioned that is because he's actually one of these players that you need to keep an eye on. He's actually a significant player. DeAndre Ayton is dealing with flu-like symptoms. He is questionable. Devin Booker remains out. TJ Warren remains questionable. There's more. Rajon Rondo's coming back soon, but he's still out. Josh Richardson, who was scratched right before that game last time out, like 15 minutes, he is questionable. Hassan Whiteside remains out for personal reasons. Tyler Johnson is questionable, and there you have it. Lots of injuries to pay attention to, some more major than others, but all of them that we talked about have some implications on this slate.
And what Dave does a great job of is when writing the deep dive, putting those at the top of the article and then further explaining, obviously, once he and Adam are on the deeper dive, which is our live free show over on YouTube at 5 p.m., how those are changing, how those are game by game going through and making sure to touch off on them. What Slack chat does, which is premium only, it allows you to get that information on the fly and get some analysis, not only from Dave and Adam, Josh, EMAC, you throw Eddie in there as well. You get mixed there, and then you get the subs who do a great job also of communicating and analyzing and making sure I don't just put the injuries up top. I will put the implications if this guy is out in the article, so you can know how to react in the event in one of these. So if say John Wall were to be out, I'd make sure to tell you who you want to play there. So all right. I feel like we're boring people, but I always that's
put
a lie.
In there.
We
Whatever.
don't bore people. Come on. Let's talk point guard, though, where we start at the top, where we have Russell Westbrook at 11K, and then we drop below 10K right away. Steph Curry, Kyrie Irving, John Wall, we've mentioned is questionable with the bone spur-itis. Ben Simmons at 85. Conley's questionable at 81. And you get Drew, De'Aaron Fox, Eric Bledsoe. Listen, Russ Westbrook here at 11K, and you see Utah, and you might say, well, it's slow and paced game, good defensive team. The backcourt's pretty bad. Like, the backcourt's bad defensively, and Gobert has been pretty non-Gobert-like on the year defensively. This seems like a fine spot to play Westbrook, and do you think the masses turn away just because of the matchup and make him a better play at 11K than he may be because of the elevated price tag?
Yeah, I don't know. I have no problem with him, though. The reason I think that people may not turn away too much, though, is because Davis against Boston, that would give people the same reason to turn away. Davis actually dropped 66 DraftKings points on them earlier this season. Giannis Antetokounmpo, there's reason to think that you'd turn away from this game too. Milwaukee's a 14-point favorite. They're also, by the way, playing their second of a back-to-back. So we'll want to keep a close watch on that. So all of these guys have reasons that you would maybe want to fade them. I mean, Milwaukee just played a very competitive game with Toronto and won last night. So yes, I think that game might stay closer than you'd originally expect. Giannis was pretty disappointing against the Warriors with 56 fantasy points. They did an amazing job of keeping him away from the basket. Yeah, most of his shots that he made were in the paint around the basket, but he only took 13 shots because he couldn't get there. When he did, he scored because he always does, but he could not get there. And then yesterday, he had 19, 19, and 6. Look, 1 block, no steals. That's not going to get it done. I still think he's a perfectly fine play here, though. It's just the top price guys are the ones that it's not as easy today, because I think LeBron against Miami, and I haven't been particularly high on him recently when it seems like a lot of people have been. And look, he's giving you 61, 68. Definitely have. I'm not going to say I was right or wrong because we got big Westbrook games and such in there. But I wasn't super high on him because of the slate specifically. I had other guys above him. But I think LeBron here against his, one of his former teams is not because of the narrative, just because Miami's actually playing up in pace this season. And I think this game stays competitive is reason to like it as well. They're 6.5-point favorites. And I do like LeBron here, no question. So, lots of guys there. But, you're right. There's nothing about – if the question is, do we fear Utah's defense? No, I don't fear Utah's defense. Now, they do play at a slower pace than Oklahoma City, but they're not at the slowest pace. They're averaging over 100 possessions per 48, which is very un-Utah-like and something that I like to see quite a bit. So, yes, I think Westbrook's a very solid play here. $11,000 is a perfectly reasonable price point as well. And, at that rate, you're just looking at someone that, as we've seen over the last 2 games, can give you huge numbers. And by the way, Paul George can give you huge numbers in the same game because it's a 1-2 punch. They both basically do all of the work for this team. And Westbrook at 11-2 on FanDuel is even more appealing because he's $1,200 less than Davis and $1,100 less than Antetokounmpo. So you're getting a significantly higher discount there. Where on FanDuel or on DraftKings, he's only $700 less than Giannis, and he's actually $100 more than Davis.
Lots to break down at the top end of all positions. So we'll pose that question to Dave at the end of his favorite 5-figure plus player. We'll get a sense of it throughout, I am sure, but not as many high prices we've seen over the past couple of episodes of the DFS early bird. What else do you see here at the top end of point guard? We have a lot of injuries, a lot of moving pieces here that could influence a lot. You have Steph Curry, Kyrie against New Orleans, whose backcourt has been a little bit sieve-like when it comes to defense. You talk about guys like Conley with the questionable tag, and then Drew and De'Aaron Fox, Eric Bledsoe. Amazing to see De'Aaron Fox all the way up to 7,600 on DraftKings. I know it's been a slow climb, and he's hit above it, but just a price tag that I did not expect to see when the season started. What do you got at the rest of point guard?
I do like Curry here. I think he'll go pretty overlooked on this slate. And in a spot where I expect to see a lot of scoring, 226 total here. Warriors are 10.5-point favorites. I know that Draymond Green's back. He won't be limited, but I still, I really, I would take first half line on Minnesota all day. I don't know what it is yet, but I'm assuming it'll be 5 Golden State.
That's a great call.
Like I think Minnesota comes out of the gate and really keeps this game close. And then Golden State will pull away at the end. But we see it all the time, particularly
it's the Cavs game when they played the Cavs. Like inexplicably, you're looking at this line and seeing through 3 quarters that they're close, and then they pull away and win by 20. Yeah. I agree. I think that's a great call, honestly. At
the Oracle too. I mean, at home it's like they give the fans something to show.
Exactly. It's a WWE match,
right? Right. But Minnesota's also playing good basketball, so Could the Warriors finish winning by 10, 11 points? Yeah, but I think this game stays close through 3 quarters. I do. And then they probably end up pulling away, which means I like Curry as a result. I also like Kyrie Irving. I've talked about this a bunch on the show about Kyrie Irving, about Jrue Holiday and the Pelicans. Defensively, they just have not been the same this year, particularly in the backcourt. Jrue Holiday's defensive rating, not that that's the end-all be-all at all, is down quite a bit from what it's been in seasons past, and they've struggled more to defend opposing point guards this year as well. Holiday has a career worst 113 defensive rating. Actually, he's never been above 110. I've seen some noticeable flaws here for this team. They play at the 3rd fastest pace too. You know, their defensive rating is the 5th or 6th worst in the league. There are some clear flaws. And I think it's a spot where you could certainly try to exploit with Irving, who this game should stay close. Boston's on second of a back-to-back. I'm sorry, no, they're not. Not on the second of a back-to-back. I think the Pelicans are on the second of a back-to-back, which, is a little bit concerning, no question. Holiday dropped 37 points in that road win yesterday. But the Celtics are only 6.5-point favorites, 230 total. I like this. I think Irving can give you big numbers here. And I'm just not nearly as worried about this Pelicans backcourt defense as I was a season ago. Believe it or not, only the Wizards are allowing more points to opposing point guards this season. The Pelicans are also allowing more field goal attempts than any other team not named the Clippers. And in terms of efficiency, the Pelicans are allowing the 4th highest in the league to point guards. So yes, I like Kyrie Irving at sub 9K on DraftKings. That's a really favorable price point for a guy that does have big upside here. He's 8,500 on FanDuel. And yeah, last game wasn't great. He played 23 minutes. I mean, give this guy full run, and I expect to see really solid numbers. He dropped 58 last time against them. Granted, he had 5 steals, but it doesn't matter. It's a good spot. So those are the guys up top. Ben Simmons, if Embiid's back, which he should be, but those migraines can flare up. If Embiid sits, and by the way, I didn't know he was a guy that dealt with migraines. Usually those players. Mm-hmm. Like the Percy Harvins and guys that you just know deal with migraines. I didn't know he was one. And I don't know what's going on with him. But if he does sit, if something flares up, they're going to be very cautious with him. You obviously play Ben Simmons, and for a fact that you're playing Jimmy Butler. If you were one of those guys that faded Jimmy Butler chalk last time because he was chalk, well, that's what doesn't make sense, because his usage is 19% with Embiid on the floor. It jumps up to like 33% with him off at 7,900 or 74 like last time. There's no reason you fade that. You don't fade that volume in a spot like this. And he showed us why, because he racked up ridiculous numbers, played 39 minutes. Those are certain spots where it doesn't matter what they're going to be. It's very, very difficult for them not to put up really solid numbers. So I got him out of the way early, since we expect Embiid to play, but we still don't know. And then aside from that, it's not as great in the mid-range. I don't think there's anybody I absolutely love. If you want to go back to Lonzo Ball, you can do it. Yep. He's not a guy that I'm very confident in. He's not someone that I like to play very often, and everybody knows that. But he is cheap enough to where I think it makes sense, and his minutes have been ramping up, so that's good. Thomas Satoransky with Wall expected not to play. That's obviously another spot where you kind of just have to bite the bullet and play him, and he has 2 position eligibility on DraftKings. The minutes should be there. He played 36 and then 27. I'd expect around 30, 32 today. Austin Rivers in his first start without Wall played 34. Then he played 24 in that blowout loss to the Cleveland Cavaliers, but he would still be somewhat worthy of considering. The thing is that Satoransky is only $200 more than Rivers, so that he's just a significantly better play and a better all-around actual basketball player. So that's the value we're looking at right now.
What about somebody like Monte Morris here, to pronounce that correctly? Monte Morris is at 3,600, coming off a very solid game. I do want to point out that a large majority of it was due to steals, which are probably not highly predictable, but had 10.7 assists, 5 steals, and 2 rebounds against Atlanta. Matchup here with Memphis. Assume slowdown and pace here should keep people away. Assume some will be chasing the last results. So I want to get your take here on someone like Morris at 3,600.
Yeah, I'm fading here. You're talking about putting those numbers up against maybe the sloppiest team in the league and literally the fastest paced team in the league. Now you're facing literally the slowest paced team in the entire league. The slowest paced team in the entire league. The Hawks lead the league in turnover rate at 17.2%, play at the fastest pace. The Grizzlies play at the slowest pace in the entire league and have the 9th lowest turnover rate. So there's just nothing here that's appealing to me, even though he's cheap. You know, if you wanted to throw a dart and hope that he gets hot, and sure, I get that. But I think it's a huge, even at this price, I think it's a big letdown spot for Monte Morris. And let's not forget that he played 24, he's averaging 22 minutes per game over his last 3. So I'm just not buying into it here.
Yeah, and I think that's part of what we try to do here is it's not always about chasing the last results. It's about looking at the matchup and trying to find why it happened and where the real uptick in production was. And you look at 5 steals, and Dave talks often about stocks, right? Steals and blocks and how those are those peripheral stats that if you can start to predict them or see where there's upside, you can really make some headway. Here, it seems like there's downside and legitimate downside coming from off a 5-steal game when he had 0 steals, I think, in 6 straight games before that. So take it for what it's worth, but I wouldn't be chasing those results here in this matchup, even though he's at 3,600 against Memphis. Let's move on to shooting guard. Obviously, you do have Steph Curry available here. Point guard, usually a little bit deeper than shooting guard, so if you choose to play him here, makes a ton of sense. You have Brad Beal at 8,400 as your lone shooting guard only eligible player above 7K. Klay Thompson is at 6,800. You got Holiday, Butler, Bledsoe, LaVine, Donovan Mitchell, and then we move into the mid-tier where we do have some shooting guard, small forward eligible players. Curry, kind of aside, thoughts on Beal without Wall, and then get into the Butlers and the rest in the, let's say, 6,500 and above range.
Great spot for Beal, man. I think people were all worried about him in that first game without Wall. Like, oh, man, this doesn't look good. This isn't good. And then he finished with 36, 6, and 9.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'm okay with that. I don't know why you wouldn't be okay with that. I mean, look, Bradley Beal over his last 3 games has taken 22-plus shots in all of them. And believe it or not, Dan, his price has come back down to 8,400. So, I mean, the guy's usage rate, I haven't pulled it up, but what, 12.05 to 12.08? It's got to be, I'd say, 35%. I mean, what isn't there to like about that? Yeah, you've had 40 fantasy points last game, fine, but he played 33 minutes because they lost by 15 points and he didn't play his normal run. Could this game blow out? I mean, it could, but he's still going to play 30-plus minutes. Like, he's still going to get the run. I just don't see any reason why Brad Beal at that price tag isn't in play. I just pulled it up now. Bradley Beal's usage rate in those 2 games with Wall out is 34%, and he is dishing out assists at 30%. So, yeah, give me that all day long, man. His rebounding's been up too. He even blocks shots. Like, I think it's a perfectly fine spot. And because Oladipo's out, maybe this game stays close. They're only 6.5-point road dogs. So, yeah, I like Brad Beal. 8,400 is just too fair of a price for him. He's just been way too good, man. 87 on Draft or FanDuel too. I think it's very reasonable. Again, if Embiid is out, give me Butler over Beal on DraftKings and on FanDuel. $500 cheaper on both sites. And I'll take Butler in this spot all day long against the same Detroit team that he just absolutely lit on fire 2 days ago. So, yeah, that's in play. Zach LaVine, 7,400 on DraftKings. His price has come back down. You've got to like that. You've absolutely got to like that price point on Zach LaVine. Chris Dunn's still out. Yeah, LaVine's coming off a really bad game where he played 19 minutes. But you're going to get back up to seeing 35, 36 minutes. This game in Chicago, I don't expect to see much of a blowout. Actually, the Kings are only 2.5-point road favorites. It's a 225 total here. Chicago and LaVine get a nice pace up spot against the Kings, who play at the second fastest pace in the league, while Chicago plays at the 11th slowest pace. LaVine is just way too cheap at that price point. 8,100 on FanDuel is also pretty enticing, but 74 on DraftKings is simply way too cheap. There's no way you get away from that. I'm not saying you got to play him everywhere, but there's just simply no way you're not going to consider Zach LaVine in this matchup in a good spot, pace up spot, 2.5 point spread. You have to love it. With Josh Hart, by the way, this is I had mentioned this to someone in our Slack chat. Like, is Hart actually a good play? And I think I'm paraphrasing myself, but close to the exact answer was he's going to get a ton of minutes, but there's a legitimate chance the guy can do absolutely nothing. And he did absolutely nothing in 36 minutes against the Spurs. And then he played 36 minutes the following night and had 36 fantasy points. So there's no way to tell with Josh Hart. His usage, I can tell you this much, his usage is not going to be high.
Right.
In order to do that, he needed to hit four 3-pointers on 7 attempts, 10 total attempts from the field. He needed 3 steals and 2 blocks. He had 4 rebounds, 2 assists. He needs to pitch in everywhere. At this price in 36 minutes, however, I still think it's perfectly fine. By the way, that game came against Memphis. So Miami plays at a much faster pace. This game should see plenty of scoring. I expect it actually to go over that 218 total. So I don't hate Hart at all. I prefer Satoransky because I think he has a higher floor here. But at the same time, both of these guys similarly priced. Both of them make for plenty of sense. Just because the minutes, sometimes you just have to go with the minutes and hope that they can fall into some peripheral stats or knock down their shots. And both of their matchups are a lot better than Monty Morris's for sure. And their minutes are more secure in the event that both games stay competitive.
Makes a ton of sense. And as we roll through, don't forget, Dave has your deep dive every Monday, Wednesday, Friday. Adam has it Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday. You get Dave on the Monday, Wednesday, Friday early bird. You get Adam and Dave every day with your deeper dive at 5 p.m. And then you get the live up until lock show, live until lock. There it is.
Live before lock.
Before lock. LBL. Yeah, that's it. Live before lock.
Yeah.
Which is Josh and Spags and with co-host Ed Fear. So you get them each and every day leading up to lineup lock with great insight. Josh's rankings available, obviously, over there on Awesemo.com behind the paywall, along with Andrew Barron's as well, which you'll see under the drop-down as Fan Vice rankings, the former employer of many of us at Awesemo.com. So you can get all of that information available to you, along with some grades from Alex Awesemo himself and some great insight from each and every one of these great analysts when it comes to NBA DFS. Let's talk some small forward next.
Hold on, let me. I had one more play I needed to throw out.
I'm sorry.
I was saving him for last. That's all right. Saving him for last. Alec Burks, man. This guy.
Sure.
I clearly don't expect his numbers to be crazy, but think about this. This is kind of important. First of all, if Rodney Hood sits, that's pretty big. There's no more George Hill, and David Noah was still out. Not to say that he was going to be taking a ton of his minutes away, but because of the trickle down and the way that the rotation shifts, with guys like Nance moving from this position to that position, this guy moving from this position to that. You get it. Think about this. This offense, because Burks had 13 assists over his last 2 games in which he's played 34 minutes and 38 minutes. He has 13 assists over those 2 games. I expect the rebounds to come down, but even though he's actually been rebounding pretty well, follow me for a second. They don't have good facilitators on this team. I mean, Colin Sexton does not care to rebound. He just doesn't. To assist. Jordan Clarkson is the furthest thing from a facilitator. They don't have anybody. And it's not like Matthew Dellavedova is going to hop in and play 30 minutes a game. So is it possible that Delly gets a little bit of run? Yeah. Is he a pass first guy? Yeah. But with the way that Burks is playing recently, especially given that they just won by 15 points and he had a very solid overall game, I think Alec Burks is a very good player. They don't have any facilitators in this backcourt. They really don't. Burks might actually look to take on a type of role like that. And I still think his price is very reasonable. If Hood is out, you might see another 36, 38 minutes from Alec Burks, and you are going to see more assist opportunities as well.
Makes sense. And I think Burks' name is synonymous with so-so fantasy production, right? Like, just you remember his days in Utah and you think, well, no thanks. This is a different situation. Minutes are there, usage is there, and potential upside. So Burks and honestly Sexton were two names that I had highlighted as potential plays on this slate. Burks probably with a little bit more upside than Sexton has shown, just simply on the peripheral stats that could come with it. Let's continue on and talk small forward, where we do get Giannis, LeBron, KD, Paul George, Ben Simmons, Jimmy Butler, Tobias Harris, Aaron Gordon, all above 7K. Throw Kyle Kuzma into the mix there as well. And then sub 7, we can go to the likes of Tatum, Gallinari, Middleton, and Buddy Hield is shooting guard, small forward eligible now on DraftKings. Barnes, Bogdanovich, and on we go. Listen, obviously Giannis at 11.7 is expensive, but he's great. He's very good at the game of basketball. A large spread here. LeBron gets the matchup with Miami. Dave's already talked about that a couple of times over. And then you get KD on the other side of this Golden State-Minnesota game. I want to talk KD first. With Draymond back, with Steph Curry back, are we now into that sort of price tag watching when it comes to Golden State? It's just simply a matter of there are too many mouths to feed, and we're going to have tough time nailing down who is the right play game over game and waiting for a KD swoon so we get a lower price tag? Or do you feel confident looking at a KD along with a Steph Curry on a slate like this?
No, I don't want to play both of them. Could you consider one or the other? Yeah, sure. I prefer Curry here. Both are very capable of putting up solid numbers, but I like Curry. I actually like Curry's floor more here, to be honest with you. By the way, Kevin Durant scoring only 11 points last time was highly unusual. At one point, he had 7 turnovers and 7 points in the fourth quarter, which is just insane. Now, I don't really want to go. I don't have any interest in Kevin Durant here. I'd rather pay up a little bit more for James. I like Giannis as well. Talked about Butler. Obviously, him and Simmons are both eligible here on DraftKings. Embiid has to be out. I actually don't think Butler's the craziest play if Embiid is active, but definitely not a priority. And because Zach LaVine and Bradley Beal just become far and away better plays because of their own situations. So the top and the mid-range has a lot of quality plays, but at the bottom, if I'm playing anyone on this Denver team against Memphis, it's going to be the guys that benefit most from no Paul Millsap. And so you look at Willy Hernangómez. He played 40 minutes last game. He is $4,700 on DraftKings, and on FanDuel, he is $5,700. All right, you want to pay for that? Fine, go ahead and do that. But give me Trey Lyles, who is $3,700 on DraftKings. And he's 56 on FanDuel, so that's kind of a toss-up. I'd probably go with Hernangómez there just because the minutes are more locked in. But Lyles on DraftKings compared to Hernangómez, he's $1,000 cheaper in the same matchup. And while Hernangómez played 40 minutes last game, Trey Lyles played 38 minutes last game, in which they lost to the Atlanta Hawks. So, there's no Millsap, there's no Gary Harris. Lyles is going to benefit from no Millsap for sure. Played 38 minutes. He shot 2 for 13 and still had 28.5 fantasy points. I mean, I just think if you were to say for the rest of the season, Hernangómez and Lyles are both going to play 36 minutes a night, who averages more fantasy points, I'd feel very confident that is going to be Trey Lyles. I like this guy's per minute production. I've always liked what he's capable of doing when he gets extended run, and he's a better overall per minute producer. So $1,000 discount, $3,700. That's another reason why I'd much rather play him over someone like Monty Morris, because Trey Lyles can rebound. Trey Lyles is very capable of racking up some steals and block shots when he gets the additional run. I mean, he's got to be one of the top. He might be my top overall value play on this entire slate. And I'll throw Otto Porter into the mix as well. He's definitely going to get plenty of opportunity here. He should play 40-plus minutes if this game stays close. Honestly, 38, 42 minutes. It's very, very possible that we see something like that with increased usage, assuming John Wall, who's doubtful with those bone spurs on his heels, is out. I mean, it's not a bad position, and I think you have a few guys at each tier that makes life a little bit easier, but there's just no way I'm getting away from Trey Lyles here at 3,700. That's a clear mispricing on this slate.
I will say when Wall is out, the only player you need is Markieff Morris in your life. I mean, if we're being honest here, Dave. Well, to be honest, to not joke around, Markieff Morris obviously has a soft spot in my heart, but Trey Lyles and the Nuggets are dealing with a lot of injuries. Like a lot. Like you talk about Millsap, but you talk about the guard space. There's a lot of usage to go around, and Lyles, just price point wise, blew my mind when scrolling through the prices here.
It's an egregious mispricing.
Yeah, and egregious is a word that you don't overuse. There are some others in the industry who do, but
this is true.
That is an egregious price point. Like it's just for the minutes and the potential usage and the potential output. That's somebody for Monday. Lock buttons, not exactly where I go, but somebody you should definitely have a heavy thumb on the scale when it comes to your usage.
No, I'm probably going to play him in every lineup.
Right.
All of them. Honestly, and if it fails me, then it is what it is.
It was the right process.
Yeah, he's going to be high owned. It is what it is. You have to just consider, like, he's $3,700, and this is the biggest thing. Okay. This is why people, there's a very real thing when you talk about good chalk and bad chalk.
Yep.
Some players could be chalky and they're just not good chalk. Some of them are. The reason somebody like Trey Lyles is because he is somebody that for his career is producing really solid numbers, right? Like you're talking about a guy who on a per 36 basis for his career averages 13 points, 8 rebounds, 2 assists, and then 1.5 stocks. So that's what, 13, 20, 22, 2, 5, 6, 7, 8. Like it's sub 30, but at the same time, this year it's right at a fantasy point per minute. I think, let me see. I want to make sure. The extension I have that shows me their per minute production just died. Right now, yeah, he's right at a fantasy point per minute. 2 seasons ago, he was at 19 per 36, 19 points, 9 rebounds, and 1.8 stocks, 2.5 assists. So the last 2 years, he's just been way better. So looking at that, you've seen him grow. You've seen him get more opportunity with Denver. I think this is a per minute, 1 fantasy point per minute guy that at 3,700, even in a tough matchup, if you're saying, okay, he's going to play 30-plus minutes with upside to play 38 minutes, I'm not sure how I'm fading that.
Yeah, and I just think it's a crush spot at 3,700. And 4,700, different conversation. Like, honestly, it's a vastly different conversation if he's 1,000 more on DraftKings, just simply from a lineup construction standpoint. But 3,700 allows you to do so damn much when you're trying to put a lineup together. I want to double check over on FanDuel what he's at. Let's see. Lyles is 5,600 and power forward eligible over there. So a different price point, a different story on FanDuel. DraftKings, again, I struggle with, and Dave's admittedly here early on saying probably going to be in every lineup, not necessarily what's going to be at 7 o'clock. Come lineup lock on Monday night. Tune in for the deep dive. Yeah, tune in for the deep dive and tune in for the deeper dive where you'll hear exactly what Dave's doing. And then you subscribers out there will get Dave's player pool and discussion over there in chat. Those who are on the free YouTube side don't get that. Lyle's a little bit different on FanDuel, but DraftKings, that was one of the names that stood out greatly to me heading into small forward. Obviously, power forward eligible as well, Dave. So we do have some ability to move him around depending on what we're exactly doing each position. What do you got at power forward? AD is 100 less than Giannis on this slate. 200 more than LeBron. KD just over 10K at 10-1. Then you get Blake, Paul George, Tobias Harris, Aaron Gordon, Sabonis is 7,300, and then we go on from there. Who are some of your favorite plays here at power forward?
Yeah, not the deepest position, but a few guys that interest me quite a bit. If DeAndre Ayton is out, that would be huge, because then you have some massive value with Rashawn Holmes against the Clippers. DeAndre didn't practice. He's got those flu-like symptoms. If he doesn't play, I would expect Holmes to see a lot of run, and he's still very affordable. And Holmes, another one of those guys that is producing well over a fantasy point per minute this year. And we've seen him recently play upwards of 23 minutes in games. He's played 19, 21, 22, and 23 over his last 4. Yes, those minutes are trending downward, but if Ayton's out, it wouldn't make a damn difference, because you're going to see him jump into a really big workload here. And there's just no way he wouldn't. I mean, what are you going to stick Ryan Anderson at the 5 all game? That doesn't make any sense. Dragon Bender. Rashawn Holmes is your only other actual player that can rebound and play the 5. So keep that in mind, right? Keep that in mind, that Rashawn Holmes would become a really, really good play. And so would Daniel Tice. If Horford is out and if Aaron Baines is out, he's another one. Same price on DraftKings as Holmes against the Pelicans. Look, we shouldn't expect those same numbers, obviously, but you'd be out of options. I want both of them out, though, if I'm going to play Daniel Tice at 4K, just to be clear. That last game was a blowout, and both of them did not play. So that makes a quite a big difference here. So let's just not overthink that one, and make sure you're paying attention to who's in and who's out for Phoenix and Boston. Talked Giannis, we talked LeBron. Look, Anthony Davis is one of these players who at sub 11K on DraftKings makes sense. I do prefer Westbrook here, but I'm never going to say that Davis is a bad play at that price. He's just always capable of putting up big numbers, and that's just something we have to respect. Blake Griffin against the 76ers this year, there's just no denying it. At this point, there is no denying how ridiculously good he has been against them. He's averaging, and this is through 3 games. This is their 4th game and final game against each other this year, but he's averaging 40 points, 39.7 real points, 13 rebounds, 6 assists, and a stock. Okay, that's insane. That's just insane. He's getting to the free throw line 17 times per game against them. And that's through 3 games. And he's attempting just shy of 25 field goal attempts a game. Yes, Blake Griffin, even at 9,500, I'm not going to lie, I still have interest here, simply because he's putting up monster numbers against it. The reason, even against Embiid, they just don't know how to defend him. They don't know how to defend him. They don't know how to not foul Blake Griffin. And I think a lot of it has to do, too, with the fact that he is a threat from outside. He's been way too good against them. And I've watched every one of those games. This is not fluky. Like, they cannot stop him. They don't have an answer for him. And his offensive skill set is too much for them to handle for whatever reason. I think mostly because he's amazing at drawing fouls in the paint. And he also he confuses the defense very easily with his range. So Blake Griffin is someone that we need to consider here for sure. Then you get into the question of, do you want to play Julius Randle, who's in the starting lineup now? I think you can. He's just been ridiculously good, right? I mean, Mirotic misses 2 games. Randle has 54 and 53 fantasy points. And then Mirotic comes back against Memphis. Randle starts, plays 35 minutes, has 52 fantasy points, plays against Detroit yesterday, has 34 minutes and 47 fantasy points. He's putting up ridiculous numbers on a per minute basis this year. You're talking about a player that is giving you hold on one second. He is giving you 1.37 fantasy points per minute, and he's 7,100. That doesn't make sense. And now that we see what the minutes are going to look like, Alvin Gentry gave him 35 and 34 minutes with Mirotic coming off the bench. Mirotic played 20 and 30 minutes, so he still played 30, and he played 30, and Randle still played 34 minutes. That's really nice to see. and Anthony Davis in those 2 games played 36 and 26. So that's the thing. I think what you'll see is Davis's minutes were down in this game because he left and then returned. By the way, there's a possibility that Davis could even miss this one, even though he came back. You never know. It's a second of a back-to-back. They might sit him out. If that's the case, then Randall plays 40 minutes. But if Davis plays his full allotment of minutes, Mirotic's minutes probably go back down, and I'd give Randall 32 minutes or so. Maybe he plays 34, but 7,100 even in this matchup is too cheap for a guy that's been that good. And then I want to give you one more mid-range guy that I've been trying to keep a close eye on. Lauri Markkanen has had 2 phenomenal games since returning and 2 dreadful games. But what I like to see is that he's not afraid to shoot. He's going to jack up a lot of threes, and you're going to see him take double-digit threes at times. When that happens, you can get big numbers from him. Last game was such a monstrous blowout. They lost by almost 50 points. In close games, though, you're going to get 30 minutes from Markkanen. I don't think this is a bad spot at all against the second fastest-paced team in the league, and that's if Bobby Portis doesn't return. If he's out, Lauri Markkanen is still someone that I'm willing to consider if you can get him at a reasonable price point, of course.
Power forward position that's been a little bit tough to nail down on the year, but lots of analysis there. Lots to come still in the deep dive. Dave has that Monday, Wednesday, Friday. Don't forget also you have this wonderful giveaway from Awesemo.com giving you an opportunity to get a month free of any sport you so choose or something free from the new merchandise store over there at Awesemo.com. Shop.awesemo.com. And it also gets you entered into the potential, and that's over on Christmas Eve, to win 1 free year. And that's from the day the date is drawn. The name is drawn through 365 days to get you free year of all access to Awesemo.com, up to a $700 value there, which will be a randomly selected winner by doing 2 things. One, on YouTube, thumbs up this video and subscribe, and then leave a comment. Leave a comment saying your favorite moment thus far of the DFS Early Bird and or the previous incarnation, which was known as the Night Shift, and leave a comment on the last time you were vindicated by being right. So write that up quickly. It can be a sentence. It can be 10. We'll be happy to read all of them. Same thing on iTunes. Do a rating, which we hope is 5 stars. Let us know if it's not 5 stars, why it's not. And then let us know your favorite early bird and or night shift favorite moment. And then let us know, of course, the last time you were vindicated by being right. And oh, so happy. If you don't get what I'm talking about, rewind to the beginning of the show and listen to Dave talking about mounting a TV in the right place in his household. So let's close it out here, Dave. Centers, obviously, we have the Embiid news that we're waiting on with the migraines, whether or not that will take him out of the mix here. Davis is at 10.9. Everybody else sub 10K. Jokic is at 9.3. Towns 9.2. Then you get Vucevic, Drummond, Gasol, Whiteside, who is questionable. I believe out, actually, now that I think about it. Yeah, he won't be available Monday against Lakers because of last thing I've seen is because of awaiting or the birth of his child. There are questions whether or not that is in fact true. Conspiracy theories may abound from there. Then you get Gobert and DeAndre Jordan. On we go. What are some of your favorite plays here at center?
Well, it's not just my favorite plays at the position. On DraftKings, Joel Embiid is my favorite play on the entire slate. And actually, maybe on FanDuel at 10,400. I mean, let's just run through this for a second. And yes, in basketball, the right narrative can mean a lot because the intangibles are hard to come by, but sometimes we can make sense of certain things. Let's start from the beginning. Joel Embiid is frustrated with his current role. He expressed that. Brett Brown in this organization, I don't think wants to make their best franchise player upset. Squeaky wheel gets the oil. Squeaky wheel gets the grease. Embiid's going to get greased in this game. Okay? That's number one. Number two, it's coming against Andre Drummond, who he's decimated, averaging 30 and 10 against him through his career, and he's played games with like 23 minutes. He has crushed Drummond. He sat out for rest purposes last game, was very upset about that. Jimmy Butler led them back from down 12 points at half. and they won. This game's at home in the Wells Fargo Center. Joel Embiid's 9,800 on DraftKings. You're talking about he's 10,000. He's less than $10,000, and as a per minute producer, he's giving you just Joel Embiid on the season. He's averaging 1.58 fantasy points per minute. So I just don't see why at that price you're not going to be all over Joel Embiid here. I expect to see ample opportunity. And another thing too, he doesn't like to roll. And yeah, he's had some rough games since Butler came around. But let's not forget, yeah, he struggled against Toronto, tough matchup. And Memphis was a tough matchup. But against Washington, he played 22 minutes. He was on pace for 70-plus fantasy points. New York, he played 30 minutes, 6 less than he would have. He had 59 fantasy points, right? Brooklyn, 57. Cleveland, they sucked that game. I swear they were hungover after Thanksgiving. 61 against New Orleans, 62 against Phoenix, 58 against Charlotte. And then Utah, not the greatest matchup, shot 7 for 20. And he only played 26 minutes because of foul trouble. He still has monster upside. And he's still going to get plenty of opportunity. His usage is still going to be upwards of 30%. Yes, give me plenty of Joel Embiid here, no question, at 9,800. And yes, at 10-4 on FanDuel. I absolutely love him here. I expect him to get a ridiculous amount of work, and I'm going to have quite a bit of Joel Embiid. So there you have it. Wendell Carter Jr. is still too cheap. No surprise. DraftKings, I'm so tired of this shit. Move them back to center eligibility only. I really don't know what it's so dumb. It's so unbelievably dumb. It really is. The minutes are all over the place, but the kid's upside is insane. You know, he still has a 40, 50 fantasy point ceiling at that price. I have interest. I don't think Andre Drummond's the craziest play. I worry about the foul trouble with Embiid, but in tournaments, he still has upside. I prefer Blake Griffin, though, which is why I'm not huge on him. Draymond Green's back. So I don't love Towns here, but 9,200 on DraftKings is a price. Much like Embiid, it's tough to ignore, but it's also tougher to love him when Embiid is that price as well. So really, you know, it's all comparable. Rashawn Holmes, again, if Ayton's out, Daniel Tice, if Baines and Horford are out, and then Bam Adebayo, his price has come up, no question. But this is a good spot for him, man. Another good spot. Bam in his first 2 games has been outstanding. He lost minutes in a blowout win over the Clippers. He did not play any of the fourth quarter, still had 34 fantasy points in 29 minutes, had 43 in 32 minutes against Phoenix. And now he faces a Lakers team in a pace-up matchup. So Bam Adebayo should be on the map as well. Not the deepest position today, but still not the deepest position for center, but still plenty of really solid options here. And then you have the MPE on DraftKings, which just furthers it along. Yeah, there's a few guys that I like quite a bit here.
All right. Anybody else at center before we talk about your favorite 5-figure player or above?
That'll do it.
All right. So let's touch on here. And obviously, Steph Curry and Joel Embiid are just sub 10K, and Dave just waxed poetical on Joel Embiid. So don't want to minimize them in this conversation.
That's what it would have been, by the way. It would have been Embiid if we're talking
absolutely
9K.
Absolutely. So we're saying 10K or above. I'm setting the stipulation on the discussion. So we get KD, LeBron, AD, Russ Westbrook, and Giannis. You get Giannis at 11.7 all the way down to KD at 10.1. Of those 5, with the obvious caveat that if Embiid was either above 10K or 10K flat, or we're talking 9K or above, he'd be involved. What do you got between KD all the way up to Giannis?
Yeah, I think I'm going to go. I think I'm going to go Westbrook here. Giannis is real tough not to. I'm not in love with any of them. I said that earlier today or earlier in the show. I'm not in love with any of them. I might go LeBron here, but I think what I'm probably going to do, assuming I don't just play a few lineups. I mix it up depending on the day, depending on the slate. Is I think this is one of these slates where I'm not going to go super overweight on any of these guys because none of them have perfect matchups. And while Giannis is good, there's also a lot of blowout concern even on the second of a back-to-back. So, look, I like Giannis. I like Westbrook. I like LeBron. I'd put Davis 4th here, especially given that injury and the second of a back-to-back. So I feel okay taking him out of it. But all 3 of those guys I like quite a bit, and I think I'm going to try and mix my exposure in. But I'm also going to have a lot of Embiid. There's no way you can't at that price. There just isn't.
And that's where we will leave the DFS Early Bird for today. Find Dave on Twitter at Lofty_D, LOUGHY_D. Find me at Dan Strafford. And of course, it's at Osmo_com. And you can get a free week by using the promo code Early Bird. And you can, of course, enter to win a free month of any sport over at Osmo.com by liking and subscribing and commenting on this video, or over on iTunes, leaving a rating. We're hoping for 5 stars, but we'll leave that up to you. And then leaving a comment with, this goes for both YouTube and iTunes, your favorite moment here on the DFS Early Bird and or the Night Shift, and also adding in the last time you were happy to be vindicated for being right, whether in a relationship or maybe at work, or just leave us a story. Leave us something fun to read over there on iTunes and on YouTube. With that said, we wish you the best of luck on Monday night. Adam and EMAC will be with you Tuesday morning right here on your DFS Early Bird.